Back to law and crime. We're just getting a statement from the South Carolina Attorney General there, Alan Wilson. Today, Alec Murdaugh pleaded guilty to his financial crimes. This is a win for the victims and for justice in South Carolina. We hope the families he betrayed and stole from find a little peace that he is going to serve time for those crimes. It doesn't matter your last name, your position, your connections. No one is above the law in South Carolina. Let's go back to that courtroom.
And Your Honor, that again would go back to 2022 GS 4702 in that particular case. The next victim was a man by the name of Randy Drawdy, who had a fairly small claim for the type of claims that we're dealing with, that Mr. Murdaugh was dealing with. But ultimately, there had been funds that were withheld to pay a potential medical bill that needed to be paid out of the account. But instead of that happening, on October 3rd, 2017, Mr. Murdaugh instead had those funds for $9,569.30 cut from the trust account to Forge and ultimately converted to his own personal use. Your Honor, the Randy Drawdy case, that is 2021 GS 4732. Our next victim is an individual by the name of Jordan Jenks. Mr. Jenks had a case here in Beaufort County that was being handled by Mr. Murdaugh. And again, in this particular instance, there was $150,000 that was held back by the law firm to settle medical liens in the case that should have gone to the medical provider. But instead, that $150,000 in two separate checks, one for $85,000 on August 1st, 2018, and a second one for $65,000 in September 18th, 2018. He had those cut to Forge, Mr. Murdaugh did, to his fake Forge account and ultimately converted those funds to his personal use. And Your Honor, again, the Jenks case would be 2021 GS 4735. The next case that we had bear with me real quick, Your Honor, would be the Satterfield case. And that would have been the case that the state was prepared to try here in a week. Gloria Satterfield was the longtime housekeeper for Mr. Murdaugh and his family. She suffered a fall at his home in Moselle and survived for a period of time, but ultimately died. And Mr. Murdaugh, who had the trust of the Satterfield family, who had known him for years, even at the funeral, told family members, I'm going to help those boys. I'm going to help the Satterfield sons. And essentially, I'm going to have them sue me so that I can make sure to get money for Gloria and for y'all. And even though he was going to be the defendant, not the defense attorney, but the defendant in this particular action.
Looks like Dick Harpootlian's, he's heard enough, but it continues, and it will continue to justify these 22 deals that Alec Murdaugh has agreed to. Katherine Lizardo is here. Casey Early, sorry, ladies, we've been so into this trial or this hearing, but let me get your thoughts on this, Casey. I haven't talked to you about it. Impact on this guy as he looks at possibly a retrial in the murder case.
Either way, he is done for the rest of his life. You know, I always say the only end to greed is destruction. And this is exactly what occurred in the midst of him stealing from the clients that trusted in his representation. He didn't think about the long run. He definitely is reaping what he sowed, and he sowed destruction, lies, deceit. He hurt so many victims, and the prosecutor is doing justice in this case. And I'm so glad that the victims have a chance to heal and not be dragged into a case, into a trial that was so obvious. Besides, he admitted guilt anyway, so it would have been a waste of time, a waste of taxpayers' dollars, and I'm glad this is finally coming to an end.
Yep. So, Katherine, where's the money? You know, we hear about, like Sam Bankman-Fried and others, Bernie Madoff, and you don't really learn, but a lot of that money was recovered. I don't know they're getting any of the money that this guy stole, because I think it went into his system as opioids, if you believe the prosecution.
That's what I think too. I've been wondering what's going to happen to the money. Does this plea deal mean that the victims are going to get it back? But I highly doubt it. It's not being mentioned by the prosecution here. And most of the time, the money is gone. That's why that type of money, that amount was taken, because they were using it. We hear that some of the money were used for his luxury flights, private jets, limousines. So there's no way to recover that money. And that adds to the insult to the injury of these victims, because they needed that money to fully heal as well. Hopefully, to some extent, they can find some peace.
Yeah, it's tough. Nobody's going to forget the testimony of Gloria Satterfield's son on the stand during the murder trial. Such an innocent guy that just was led to the slaughter by this attorney. Just brutal. Anyway, I'm going to thank and excuse Katherine Lizardo and Casey earlier. Always a pleasure, and we're going to do it again. Maybe we'll have a little more time to chat next time, but appreciate your input on this one.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for me, Michael Bryant. Hey, have a great weekend and a great Thanksgiving. I'll see you after the holiday, and of course, as always, try to do the right thing. We'll see you next time, right here on the Law and Crime Network.